Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. You know what it is? It is Win Wednesday, and this is What's Next podcast for women. You all know what we do. We always come on here and I bring another powerhouse to the table. And you know why I do that? Well, let me give you a little bit of story, give you a little bit of history about What's Next podcast. I'm also going to introduce to you in a few minutes another amazing powerhouse so you get to hear her story. I had her laughing because I know you guys hear my phone. That's my crew saying, ask her this, ask her that. So please don't be alarmed. They're excited for her to come on here. But real quick, everybody, I want to first introduce myself. My name is Pamela Stone, and I'm the host of What's Next podcast for women. And you want to know why I created the podcast? Well, let me tell you why. I was sitting in a corporate job, sitting at a desk and looking around like, this is it. I mean, I literally had a meltdown like there's no more to life than me working for someone else's dream and not knowing where I'm going to go to. So I had to collect myself, and figure out why I didn't even know where I was going, what my what's next was. And I realized that I was really holding on to a lot of what ifs and I can't, which, as you all know, those are our obstacles in life. So I really started working through the obstacles, and I realized as I'm going through and working through my obstacles, I realized there's so many other women that are going through that, who are sitting at a corporate desk, who's making everyone else's dreams possible but their own. And they want to know how I did it. So I created the podcast. And as I created the podcast, I started talking to other amazing women, as the one I have coming on with me, and they talk about how they're doing their business and how they face their obstacles, but yet still doing it and crushing it. So I will be, so that's why What's Next podcast was birthed. Not only is it not the podcast as we do Wednesdays, but it's also Win Wednesday. And so I've been getting text messages and everything else on, well, what's a win Wednesday? Well, a win is when you set a goal, may it be big, may it be small, but weekly goals, and you're crushing it. Now, there's those of us who set goals, but just set the goal and don't know where to start from there. Well, we're here to help you get to that point. Again, I have another amazing powerhouse. If you guys have any questions as we go through here, I promise you I will weed through my crew because they're really excited for her to be on. But I will definitely weed through the questions. So please drop them in here. We are here to empower you, inspire you to go after your what's next by crushing your what ifs and I can't. So I think that's it for right now. We do have 2 sponsors. I'm excited. So I can't wait to tell you who they are. But we're going to hold that in for a little bit. So right now, I would like to introduce to you guys my amazing co-host powerhouse for the week, Stacy Zell. How are you, Miss Stacy?
I am good. How are you?
I am great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We're excited. Before you even go, we already got the haze coming in. So here's where we're
Hey.
going on. Right. Everyone, we want
Hey.
to thank you for joining us. So Stacy, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Stacy, and I have a blog called Mary Zeal, and it's maryzeal.com. And it's a blog predominantly for women of color who love cannabis and love self-care. So I'm a yoga teacher, and I came to cannabis because I have insomnia. And it was my way out of trying so many other things that did not work for me, including sleeping pills, melatonin, all the things. Nothing worked for me, and then cannabis did. So that is something that I think is foundational in my story. And I love to talk about self-care because I'm a yogi. I'm into crystals and all the woo-woo stuff, manifesting, meditation, all the things. So I decided to marry the two together because when I started to use cannabis and add it to my self-care routine, I noticed that it was more elevated, that I could feel it more. It's a little, and it went a little deeper. So I wanted to share my story with the world, so I just created maryzeal.com.
Okay, everybody. So you hear how she did this. So I'm going to jump in with our questions in case I'm giving you guys a heads up, and I keep telling Stacy she just doesn't know my crew because they were drilling me. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the questions. So Stacy, how long have you been doing the cannabis and yogi?
Yeah, so it's funny. My self-care yogi story started way before I started using cannabis. So about 5 years ago, I started reading this book called Meditations from the Mat. I had just moved to Las Vegas. I lived in Las Vegas for about 6 years. I'm back in Maryland now. But when I first moved, it was just me and my partner. I didn't have any family or anything out there. So I needed something to get into, right? So I needed a hobby, because I was so used to having my family around, but then, it was just me and him. So I started to read this book called Meditations from the Mat. And that book just really like ignited my yogic curiosity. And so I started to read it and I was like, oh, I have to get certified to be a teacher. And I really wanted to learn more about yoga more so than teaching. But I went through the certification. I started teaching, so I taught for a few years, and then I realized that I didn't really like teaching so much. I just loved learning about yoga. Like I didn't like the in-person teaching part of it. So I decided to kind of pivot out of that. And then fast forward a few years later, I was driving on my way to work. My professional career is in marketing. I'm also a side hustler. So I work a full-time job in marketing, but I was on my way to my marketing job and I fell asleep driving. Oh. And it was just like, one of those wake up call moments that, people have those wake up call moments. I'm sure you've had them. Other people have had them. So it's one of those moments that just kind of sticks out. And luckily nobody was hurt. I wasn't hurt, but it really prompted me to take my insomnia seriously. Before I was just kind of pushing through it. I was like, okay, I've just accepted that I just can't sleep. And, that moment was just like, okay, you have to pay attention to this. So I went to the doctor. I tried all the things first. I tried melatonin and, lavender oil and cutting sugar, all that stuff. And none of it worked. So then I went to the doctor and he prescribed me sleeping pills and they worked great for like 2 weeks. And then after like a week and a half, I was just like, it's not working as well. So I called the doctor and he said that people build up a tolerance to sleeping pills. So it's going to take, the more you take it, the less effective it's essentially going to be. And so he suggested I take the pills for 2 weeks and then not take the pills for 2 weeks. And I was just like, wait, so you want me to get sleep great for 2 weeks and then not sleep at all for 2 weeks? That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't seem productive. So I decided to not do that. And then at that time happened, cannabis had just become recreationally legal in Las Vegas. Well, it was about to be. This was probably in like November when I was going through seeing the doctor and stuff. And then cannabis was going legal in January of 2014, I believe it was. So I decided I'm just going to try cannabis because I was looking online and people said on the blog said that cannabis works. And I just tried it. I went into a dispensary like maybe January 1st, 2014, as soon as, stuff opened up. And I never looked back. It's something that has helped me tremendously. Now I get great sleep. I still, to this day, I can sleep great. And I still use cannabis to sleep. It's just gone from being something that I predominantly use for sleep to now I use for wellness and, in my self-care routine and, and all types of different things. So a few years, I would say. It hasn't been super long. I launched Mary Zeal in 2020 during the pandemic. So my site's been around. I've been officially in the business for less than a year, but I've been a cannabis consumer for about 4 or 5 years, I guess.
My team is like, ooh. So I'm just that struck my crew over here. They're over on the side saying ooh. So with that being ooh mean good, they're like, wow, a year, I can start this now. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, keep asking her questions. So are you still working in the corporate world, or are you so you're still working in the corporate world, balancing the two, balancing your side and your corporate job? Bless you. So how do you how do you have time, or how do you juggle the time and manage the time for the both of them?
So one of the things that I'm really good with structure, like structure really works for me, like structure, habits, that type of thing. And that's why I'm trying to teach that to my audience. So I kind of set my day up where I get up in the morning, I go through my morning routine. I always feed into myself first, right? I always do my self-care first, because I know that when I give my best when I am full, when I've given to myself, when I'm centered, when I'm aligned with what I'm doing, I know the path that I'm on, that's when I can do my best at work. And so having, to juggle having a side hustle and a full-time job, and I work in tech, so it's a stressful full-time job. So having to juggle that, I always make sure I do my self-care first. So that way I'm, structured and ready to go. So knock out my self-care routine. And then for me, my full-time job is remote right now, just like a lot of people are remote right now. And I start working on Mary Zeal in the morning before I jump into my side hustle stuff. I get that about 2 hours in the morning. Then I jump into my full-time job. And fortunately for me, I'm on the East Coast and my job is based on the West Coast. So I don't actually have to start working my full-time job till about 12:30 in the afternoon. So that gives me plenty of time to like get up early, get my morning routine in, and then work on the blog for a couple hours. And then I also use the weekends, to my advantage. So it's a lot of juggling for sure, but it's definitely doable. And I think you just have to know what works best for you. Like, structure works for me. Like having a set routine, saying okay, this is what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing and it flows. And I have my cannabis in between my, when I'm switching between my things, and it's, it will woven in throughout the day for me, because I consider myself a high functioning stoner, so I can do most things high. And it makes work more enjoyable to me, honestly. But, so that's what works for me, is structure, making sure I do my self-care, I pour into myself, making sure I eat, I drink water, I take care of myself, because I know that when I do those things, I can operate at my best. Absolutely. And, and also cutting out things that make you busy. I think, one of building in time for rest and downtime. I'm trying to start to get into naps more since I'm home. I have my evening routine that is, helping me unwind from the day. Prioritizing, making sure that I go to sleep at a reasonable hour, because I know I have a structured day. But then also one of the things that I've been doing is using my vacation time to my advantage. So I will take a few days off, or before I was taking 2 weeks off at a time, and I would use a week to kind of just rest and relax. And then I use another week to just power in on the blog and get some stuff done. So it's definitely doable, but you just, what works for you, what works for you, and structure is what works for me.
I'm with you. I have to have a structure because I too work in corporate. So I totally get with, you have to have that time allotted for the you time, allotted for your business. Now, I'm not as fortunate as you, because you're on the West Coast, so you're ahead of the game. So I'm so jealous on you that part. But I totally get where, the naps, I wrote that down. So you take a nap.
I'm trying to get more into it. So I've been realizing that my job is I work in marketing, so I can take breaks. It's not, I don't work in the tech side of where I'm coding and stuff all day. So, and my job also is a job that actually does prioritize self-care and downtime and stuff like that. So, if I need to, so I have the autonomy over my day is what I guess I'm trying to get to. So I don't need to, I'm not on a specific type of clock. So I know for me, Wednesdays are usually my light days. Tuesdays are my auntie Tuesdays, where I have my nephew, so I don't, schedule anything or naps or anything for those days. So Wednesdays, I'm thinking okay, I want to start doing naps on maybe Wednesdays or Fridays or something. I can do it in the afternoon, because I know those are always my light days. I don't have any other obligations, and stepping out for 30 minutes. And those are usually days I think I don't have a big workload either, Yeah. So it's definitely, it goes back to the structure thing. It's having my schedule and knowing okay, this is what my schedule looks like for the week. These are what my priorities are for the week. And I, feeding into myself is a priority for me every day, every week, all the time. So knowing my schedule and knowing that I'm a priority, I just fit it in where I can.
Absolutely. I just love that you love the nap thing, because me and my girlfriend was talking about naps, and she was like, well, do you take a nap? I'm like, I do it on Saturdays and Sundays on the weekend. But man, I said I tried to do it one day during the week on my break. That didn't work so well, because I overslept my nap. So we won't do that until I can get down the schedule. But yeah, I'm all for the nap, to feel rejuvenated, revived, and ready to hit the rest of the day. I'm all about a nap. So the next question I wanted to ask you, so as you're working in the corporate world, did the corporate world prepare you for you being an entrepreneur? And if so, how?
That's a great question. I definitely think it has. So I'm someone who I consider myself like a serial entrepreneur. And I think I was just kind of destined to be an entrepreneur. I just needed to find the thing that
Right.
stuck with me. Because like when I was in college, I sold Avon. I had my own agency. I still, have a couple marketing clients that I work with. But I started an agency when I got out of college. So I've always been someone who, and this is in addition to like, having a full-time job or whatever. So I've always been like kind of a side hustler. And so each job I think that I've had has prepared me for being an entrepreneur. I've taken something from that job and applied it. So like, one of my first marketing jobs was at a law firm, a business law firm. And for me, that was great because not only was I marketing, the law firm, I could learn from the lawyers. Like we were doing events where I would plan the event and the lawyers would talk about some kind of topic. And we would call it a lunch and learn. And it would, it was really successful and it brought in business. But me as, the marketer, while they're talking, I don't have to do anything other than just kind of sit there and make sure the snacks are full or whatever. So I'm just learning from these lawyers. It's just like, okay, because they're teaching business law. So these are things that, I should know.
Absolutely.
And so, there are so many things in your current workplace that you can look into. Like, for example, my current job now, I think has, definitely been the job that has taken me to the next level in my career, period. And in this job, I have learned so much about, numbers, like how important the numbers are in marketing. And that is something that I'm applying to my business now. It's like I'm looking at numbers. I know what numbers to look for. My job is social media. And so when something is happening on Facebook, I typically know about it because I have dedicated Facebook reps at my full-time job that tell us these things. So, it's looking for the things at your current job that you can learn from, like drop shipping. That's something that's new that my job is looking into. I can learn about that because people on the marketing team are working on that project, and I could actually be put on that project, or I could, ask some questions. So if they're, and we have HR departments and we have, all of these different things where you can like, if you need to know what a job application looks like, I can go in my, portal and see what our job applications look like, or see what our job descriptions are. So I can get, so I can have some knowledge about how this stuff kind of works and what components I need to run a successful business. So there's so much that you can learn. And, it honestly gives me the freedom to be able to pay for a coach, because I have a business coach and I'm in like, in a mastermind group. And because I work my full-time job, I'm not stressed about money. I can take that money and invest it into coaching that can then help me to to make my business grow a little bit faster. So I love, doing the side hustle thing, but it's exhausting. Yes. For sure. I am not going to sit there and say it's not exhausting. Sure is. And I can't wait, until I can take my business to be full-time. But still, like there's so much that you can learn, even if you hate your job. Like I've been in jobs, I currently like the job I have, I love, but yes, most jobs before this, I did not like, or I got to a point where I started to really kind of dread it.
Yes.
And, you can still learn stuff from those places because you can learn what you don't want to do. I know the environment I do not want to create at my company from working at jobs that don't prioritize, self-care and stuff like that. So it's so many things you could learn for sure.
I'm with you. I'm even though I had that moment of breakdown, I have learned, you're right. Take what you have in your hand and use it to your benefit. Yes, you're growing in someone else's dream, but still keep focused and keep in mind your dream is right there in front of you, and keep it focused. So one of the other questions, they're dropping questions left and right, so bear with me. So the other question they have wanted to know is, we talked about how. So then with that, they asked, so how long are you going to work in corporate and or until you go full time?
So I have a date in mind in my head. And it is, I won't say the date just in case one of my coworkers sees this.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
But I have a date in mind. And I think that that's one thing that is kind of keeping me going, is knowing that I have a date in mind and I have a target. And so my plan is to definitely my plan is to one, like pay off on my debt first. I have kind of like milestones, right? That I want to hit. So I'm like, I have some credit card debt that I want to pay off. And I'm like, I don't want to go into, my new job, my new transition of life, because this really is what it is, a transitional point.
Right.
I don't want to go into that carrying any debt. So I'm like, okay, milestone one is pay off all that debt. I know exactly how much it is. I know how much I can pay off per month, or I know how much, how many offers I need to sell of, something that I'm launching soon. So, that's a milestone for me. So once I hit that, I'm like, okay, great. I'm making my way there. And then, my business coach had us put together kind of like a wish list of what you would want to do and like a target income per month that would work for you. And I'm like, okay, so now I have a target of, how much my dream lifestyle is going to cost. Right. So now I work backwards and say, okay, what lifestyle can I deal with now to just get me out of my job? So I have a number target, and, so those are definitely the things that, like, I think, I have a date in mind. And if I don't hit that date, I'm not necessarily going to, like, beat myself up. I'm really a firm believer in just like have a target, but, have some grace for yourself. Like, when I teach people how to create a daily, like a morning routine, like one of the things I say is like, have a routine, but give yourself some grace. Absolutely. I don't do my morning routine every single day. Right. There are times when like this morning, I laid in bed very long because I just wanted to lay in bed. Yeah. So it's like, it's same thing with the date that I have for my leaving my job. It's like, I have a date, but as long as I'm hitting these milestones, if it takes me a little longer, I'd rather hit the milestones and push the date out a little bit. So that way I can go into this with peace of mind and feeling like, I am working towards something and and it feels like you are making progress, right? Like, absolutely. A date on the calendar just feels like you're just like waiting for the day to get there. But like having these milestones is making me feel like, okay, yeah, like I just put a lump sum, on my credit card. Like, great. Like I actually am like, making progress. So those things are definitely really helpful.
I love that. So then the next question they wanted to know is, how did you know that you were or how do you even know where to start as being an entrepreneur? They really wanted to know you're a solopreneur, which they're really going off solopreneur. Well, what does that mean? But let's first tackle the first part of the question. They wanted to know, how did you even know to be an entrepreneur? How did you even know that you wanted to sell cannabis versus Avon versus anything else?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I've been pondering that lately. And I think, I'm definitely someone who has not been afraid to try something that I like. And I think that's that's a place that you start, right? Is figuring out, what do you like? Absolutely. And, when I started selling Avon, it was kind of like, oh, Avon was a big thing. I wanted to make some extra money in college. So I just started to do it. And my mom worked at the post office, so I could just send my book down with her and she'd give me a ton of orders. And I'd have my money, weekend money or whatever to just hang out with my friends and stuff, So then I started an agency because I was like, I was looking into going to grad school. And, I started doing some research and I heard someone say, I can't remember who said it, but they said, when you, what did they say? They said, look at the job that you actually want, like not the job that you are currently qualified for, because I was, right. A college student. Look at the job that you want. So I looked at like, CMO of like this big company, like Adidas or something. And, nowhere on that job description did it say master's degree required. It said that it cared more about experience and your numbers and what you do. And so for me, the marketing, aspect that I've kind of gone down in social media marketing and digital, they care about experience and numbers. Right. So I said, okay, well, while I'm looking for a job, like I have tons of people who ask me about marketing. Like people know that I went to school and like I'm definitely someone who tells people what I'm doing. Like, if I talk about weed all day. Okay. Right. So, I would be on Facebook saying like, oh yeah, did this marketing project or did whatever. So people would ask me, hey, like, how do I have a book? I just wrote a book. What do I do? Or I need a website. What do I do? And so people were asking me questions. So I said, well, I could just turn this into a business because, and I was definitely someone who was figuring it out because I was a college student. I had just graduated college. I maybe had my first job out of college and I didn't know what I was doing, but I know that I'm someone who can research and figure it out. So I started figuring it out for people. And I taught myself how to build websites because my client said, well, I need a website. And I'm like, I don't know any I don't know any web designers, but I can figure out how to do it. So I figured out how to do it. And, so I think that the thing that I'm getting to, and like I did this for, yoga, like I went into yoga I jumped into teaching yoga and, I started teaching and I didn't like teaching, that's another thing for me is like, if I don't like something, I will pivot and do something else. Absolutely. Like I got into yoga, I was, teaching and I was teaching hot yoga and I was living in Las Vegas, so it was also exhausting. Um, and so, doing that and balancing a full-time job was exhausting. And I realized that I liked doing yoga because I like to practice, and teaching was taking away from my practice. So I realized I don't like to teach. I just like to I like to talk about yoga, and I like to, practice yoga.
Right.
So, I think that the thing I'm getting to is kind of like where you start is what do you like to do? And don't be afraid to pivot if you don't like it anymore. Like you may do something for a couple years and not like it anymore. After doing yoga, I went and did makeup and I hated it. And I did it because I liked doing my own makeup. And, and people would ask me to do their makeup. And I would say, okay, well, I'll do it. And then so I said, okay, I'll make this a business. Cool. And I realized I love doing my own makeup, and I did not like doing other people's makeup because I don't like to be that close to people physically. And so I said, well, let me pivot, and so then I started doing makeup. I started doing makeup. Then I said to Stacy, stop. Okay. You are just jumping from thing to thing to thing. And when I actually sat down and I started to get back into my meditation, I started to go back to yoga every day or every other day. I started to really check in with myself. And I said, what do you actually like?
Right.
What do you talk about all day? What could you talk about all day if you wanted to? And, self-care is something that I talk about every day. I'm always trying to tell people, like, take a break, take a nap. Like, as many times as that's what I tell my partner, did you eat today? Did you take a nap? Did you get some sleep? Like, that's what I talk about all day. And then, I took a little bit of a break in between kind of running my business is because I was just like, I found a job that I really love, my current job that I have now. And at that point, I really loved it. And I still do love it, to be honest. But at that point, I really loved it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a break from being an entrepreneur because that's not sitting with what I want right now. I sat down, I did my yoga, I got aligned with myself. I tapped in. I said, I don't want to hustle right now. I am very happy with my current job and learning as much. And like when I say I learned so much, I have learned so much from my current job. Like,
right.
Amazing mentor, amazing boss. And so I took a break and I said, let me just take a break. And then quarantine happened,
yes.
And we're sitting in the house and we're stuck and we're like, okay. And I had to sit again. And I realized, I moved home also in that time period. And in that sitting, I realized I wanted to move home. Like my sister had a baby, I had my nephew, and I wanted to be here. And I had to sit and stop. And I think that's what I'm kind of getting to is that sit and stop. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in going from thing to thing to thing because you're interested, because you like it. But really, instead of jumping, I wish, I should have stopped and taken a breath and taken some time to really get aligned with what I want to do instead of just diving in head first. So I guess that's the first step is stopping and figuring out, is taking some time, taking some stillness for self-discovery, right? Just taking that time to just get still, think about what you want to do, and really like put together a plan on what you want to do. And that's how you discover what you like to do. That's what you discover what you have a passion for. And for me, when I got still, that's when I realized, like, I talk about cannabis all day. I got one of my brother-in-law into cannabis and he uses it for his anxiety. And I said, wow, like just me sharing my story about insomnia, like inspired him to try it for his anxiety. And it's something that helps him. And so I'm like, well, I can do that for other people. I've always been a sharer. I've always been someone, like I mentioned before, of telling people what I'm doing or what I'm researching or what I'm reading, or, I found this out, I discovered that. Like I'm always telling people things, warranted or not. Okay. Telling people things.
But that's so true. And I'm glad you talk about being still, because so many of us are still like moving so fast. And let's be honest, COVID has really got people questioning and doubting on what they're doing. And so they're not paying attention. They're so worried about the next, instead of taking a moment, like you said, stop and breathe and just be still. And it'll all come to you. So I so agree with you. We have some great comments coming in. Let me take a moment. Alicia says, very interesting story. Sherry says, hello. Alicia jumps back and says, yes, ma'am, target date, because I get on her constantly about her target date. Hello, Carolyn. She says hi to us. And Alicia also says, great advice. Sit down for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. So one of the questions that over here on this side of the, we have questions coming all both places. But over here, the one of the groups had said, what was one of the I can'ts or what ifs that you have faced, and how did you handle it?
Ooh. What do you mean? I can.
Obstacle. What
Oh, obstacle. Sorry. Okay. Oh yeah, myself. Myself is my biggest obstacle. I am a perfectionist. So, and a perfectionist in a sense that if it's not perfect, I won't do it.
Mm,
I let that stop me. I let that, saying like, I need the perfect logo. Like this is, in my other businesses, why it didn't take off. And it's because one, I wasn't aligned with who I was and what I wanted to do. But two is because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to put in the structure of my day that I have now to say like, Stacey, you're going to work, this is going to be a process to juggle building a business and working a stressful job. Put the processes in place. I wasn't ready before. Now I'm ready. Now I know I need structure. Now I know I need consistency. Consistency is a big one for me that I struggled with before.
right.
Struggle with and still struggle with, and I realized, like I have to be consistent, and getting out of my comfort zone is another one that for me, for a while, like getting out of my comfort zone, I wouldn't take that opportunity. I wouldn't reach out to that person because I didn't think I was ready, or I didn't think I was good enough or whatever. So I wouldn't do that. I would do the safe things, the things that I can control, the things that's like, okay, I'll hire a photographer. I'll hire, someone to shoot it, and I'll hire the models. I'll pick it because I can control it and it can be perfect the way I want it to be. But I wouldn't go after that other opportunity because I didn't control it because I was scared,
Right.
But now I know, in doing the self-discovery and doing the journaling and doing the things and doing the work, now I know it was fear.
Yeah.
And so that's what's held me back. And now I'm still scared of shit, to be honest.
Right.
So I don't want people to think that the fear goes away. I am still terrified, but I know that, what my vision, my mission, my why is worth it. It's worth being uncomfortable. It's worth being scared. It's worth pushing through and just saying like, hey, like ride with the wave, uncomfortable. Everybody's scared, right? Everybody, the people that we look up to, like, my business coach, I look up to her and I love what she's doing. She has a multi-billion-dollar business. She says she's scared. She overcomes obstacles. She overcomes imposter syndrome. So I'm like, well, if she can overcome it and she does it and she's built this, I can ride this wave. I can be uncomfortable for a minute. Okay. And I can get through it and I can go back and meditate and smoke and do my thing and turn on. But, I can do it. I just have to embrace the fear. But before I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to ride with the fear. I let it paralyze me. So I think, one of the things I've learned, and I hope people learn it, is just that, taking action is how you learn about yourself. Doing the work internally is how you learn about yourself. Like, learning your strengths, learning your weaknesses, all that stuff is so important. And learning what's holding you back is so important. Like knowing that fear is holding you back. Like I sit there and I'll say like, Stacey, that's fear holding me back. DM that person now. Like, like don't sit there and reach out and say like, oh yeah, hey, I would love to work with people on this. And when you get an overwhelming response, like you freeze. Right. And it's like, no, that's fear. Do it now. Embrace it. Write it.
I'm with you. Fear really, I mean, it took, but I have to say fear got me before I got here to this point where I was sitting at a corporate desk working 9 to 5, like, oh my goodness, I'm going to literally, and here's the even worst part. I experienced someone that had passed away on my job. So that really took a really hit to, okay, this is it. This is all I have. So you ladies and gentlemen, this is a great conversation. Everyone's like, great conversation. The team over here is like loving it. They're like, man, they're mad now. They wanted to join. I tried to tell you guys. I know you guys. You guys should have joined us. I tried to tell you. One we have here, Terry. She says, hello, wonderful ladies. Elisa says, love this. Yes, your why. Know your why. You got to know it so much. So I'm going to let you rest for a moment. The show is going, this has been fun. We're almost done, and I can't believe it's gone by so fast. But I still have some more questions, but sit back for a moment, get your breath. And I wanted to let everybody know today is Win Wednesday, you guys. And you know what we do on Win Wednesday? Tell me your wins. We got a lot on here. You guys are doing you're in here giving us the kudos and talking about all the nuggets that Stacy is dropping. I hope you guys look. I have my paper. I already talked to her before this started. But I hope you guys had your paper. I have my mess. I have paper written down. Hope nuggets. She has dropped some amazing nuggets, especially for those of you who are wanting to live beyond the 9 to 5. And don't get me wrong, if you like your 9 to 5, even Stacy says she loves her 9 to 5, but there's still more after your 9 to 5. And I want you to understand this is what we're talking about. Living beyond your 9 to 5. Even though you like it, there's still more for you to go after your 9 to 5. So it's Win Wednesday, everybody. What's your win? You'll hear ours at the end of the show, but we want to hear what yours is. So we have 2 sponsors tonight, and the first one actually is sponsored by Hurt and Poet LLC, and the CEO, which she is out here dropping nuggets, dropping some inspiration for us, is by Elisa Hurt. Elisa Hurt is the one who will flex your voice through her content writing. Amazing woman who can do that. If you're looking for a content writer that will take your message, take your voice to the next level, she is the woman to connect. Elisa, if you can drop it in the feed on your where they can connect with you. She is also she's also doing some emotional connection. We need that, you guys. I mean, here we are in COVID. COVID has really kept us confined. Even Stacy talked about it. And it takes your mind to another level. And so Elisa is the woman to connect with you. She connects with you on your mind as well as your business. So check her out, Hurt and Poet, CEO Elisa Hurt. So everyone, I'm waiting for you guys. We're waiting for your wins. But as we were waiting for everybody to talk about their win, Stacy. So one of the questions, the next question they want me to ask you is what's next for you? As you're building your cannabis business, what's next?
Yeah, so you guys, I guess, will be the first to know, I am launching an online course very, very soon. It'll be in February. I'm committing myself to February on this podcast right now as we speak. So my online course is coming out in February. I also have my podcast, High on Self-Care, and that is growing. And I'm so excited. I just launched that in January. So that is growing. So yeah, I'm trying to build a community. I want to, inspire by action and get together and help people be accountable and stuff like that. So I'm still trying to grow the community into something, but I'm starting with an online course and taking that to ride that wave and see where that goes.
Absolutely. I love it. So how can it connect with you? Because listen, my group over here is still popping questions. So
I love that. I love it. I love questions. Yeah, you can connect with me. Subscribe to my podcast called High on Self-Care. It comes out every Thursday, so an episode comes out tomorrow, and it's about all things like cannabis, but also things like self-love. That's going to be dropping this month, and sex and cannabis. So if you're curious, that is dropping. So High on Self-Care. It's on Apple Podcasts. And Spotify and a couple other places. But also check out my site, maryzeal.com. This is my site. Oh, maryzeal.com. And that is where I have blog posts about all kinds of different things. I have a free morning routine checklist if you want to create your own morning routine. I have a checklist there that's free. You can go and download it. Then I also have a self-care quiz. So it's a lot of fun stuff happening on that site and the podcast. So maryzeal.com and High on Self-Care. Or you can follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to use Instagram more and go live and all that kind of stuff. So my Instagram is Stacey Zeal on the screen, STACYZEAL.
That is so cool. Listen, I'm like you. I'm trying to get into the Instagram thing. So I'm not happy on it, but I definitely will drop in the feed on how they can connect with you. I love that. Love it. So you guys, so the next question, now this is a question. Now it's all about me now, since we've got them all taken care of. So are you reading any book are you currently reading any books? And if so, what are you reading right now?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked this question because I am not a strong reader. So I have not been someone who has been big into reading. So this year I committed myself to reading, and I'm so excited. I finished one book already. So I've committed myself to reading 10 books this year. Because I read a little slow. So I need I need one a month. One a month works for me.
You're doing it. That's all that matters. You're doing it.
So I just finished You Are Awesome by Neil Pach. Oh, I can't remember his last name. I will.
That's okay. We can get it. We'll drop it too.
It's called You Are Awesome. It's orange. It's bright orange, so you can't miss it. And his first name is Neil. So that is a great book. It's about resilience and like how to kind of build your own line of resilience internally and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of helping me. I just started rereading Meditations from the Mat again because it's so interesting. We were talking about like self-care journey. Like I was just started thinking about, I'm like, I need to explore that more because I know my cannabis story very well. Like that is fresh, like, getting in, falling asleep driving, getting the cannabis. I know that very well. But like my self-care journey, I've been doing it for so long and it's been like kind of ingrained in me for so long that I was just like, how did I get here? Like, why? Because I want to teach people how to get here, like where you feel like, you need to prioritize self-care. It's non-negotiable. Like for me, like self-care is non-negotiable. Even if I lay in bed this morning, I have a short routine where I'm like, okay, I know I need to get at least, these couple things done. I need to move my body a little bit. I need to say some gratitude, something. So I wanted to figure out how I got here. So I just started rereading Meditations from the Mat last week. And it's just because like that I remember is a foundational part of that story. Like I remember reading that book and feeling like, oh my goodness, like I really want to learn about this. I really need to enroll in yoga teacher training so I can learn all the foundations of yoga. And so I did that. And so that's what I'm reading now.
I love it. I love it. So I am reading, look, let me see. I'm reading 4 books at a time. That's just how. No,
that's awesome.
So, I don't read them. I do Audible. I have to.
Oh yeah, I love Audible. I love Audible.
So I am reading this one by Audra, and it's really good. It's saying, "Are you ready for the yes?" And she teaches you how to be ready because let's be honest, we as women take on so much, and but it works on the business side. So when the business is are you ready for your yes? And she takes you through steps on how to come ready for that yes when it comes in. So I really love that piece of it. And then I'm also reading War of the Art. Oh, that's really good. It's working on your inner self. And I'm wanting to do that because as I'm growing the business as you are, I want to connect and I want to teach other women how to connect more with their inner self. Because once you get close to your inner self, then your true why, and it helps you stay focused on your why because it's so easy to be taken off the path. Oh my goodness, it's easy to steer you off the path and not knowing or not thinking you could take it on and then knowing that you can't take it on. And so I'm really into that.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Oh, you have to. It's really good. And it is actually I'm listening on it Audible. So it's really good that it works that way. Then I'm reading that. And then Audra has another book called Uncloned. Now, Uncloned is all about the market. She does it, but she has a marketing plan. And she takes you through step by step on how to make your business uncloned, make it marketable. And she talks about it that way. So those are the 3. I can't remember the 4th. I'm doing good with the 3. I can't remember the 4th. I have to think about it. But I truly believe I'm all about reading. And I'm too committed. I want to read a book a month or 2 books a month. I'm trying to debate. Do I want to go a book or 2 books a month? We'll see. But I am committed to reading because I want to broaden my horizon and, of course, build myself to build my business is how I'm looking at it. So what is something fun you like to do?
Yeah, so I love gardening. That's my hobby. That's one thing that I think I was just listening to a podcast before we started about how important it is to have hobbies in your self-care. And so I was just like, I love gardening. That's not something that I would ever think to like monetize. It's just something I love to do. I have plant babies. They're like, they have names, it's a thing. So that's my hobby. That's what I love to do for fun. I do love makeup. I do actually like to play in makeup. I just like to do my own. I just don't like to do other people's makeup. And yeah, I think those are things that I do for fun. Outside of like yoga, I love, it's a part of my self-care, but it's definitely something I love to do as well.
So what kind of plants are you growing right now?
So I have a majestic palm. Her name is Pamela, after the Madam Vice President, who I really love.
I know.
So her name's Pamela. I have a bird of paradise. Her name is Janae. She's a singer, Janae Echo. I just love her. And I named all my plants after my favorite artists.
I understand.
But then I have some succulents. I have like 4 of those. Those don't have names. I have those. I have a money tree. I have angel fern. I have a monstera that's really small right now that I'm trying to get to be humongous, but it's just growing so slow. So yeah, those are what I'm growing. And I also just bought like for Christmas, my partner got me one of those arrow gardens that you can grow indoors. Because I love to grow outdoors, but I just recently moved to a place that doesn't have access to a balcony. So I have an arrow garden, and that's growing some herbs like some basil and some mint and some growing some spinach and some kale. See how big it gets in there too. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing green thumb,
I love growing stuff.
I'll tell you. Look, I'm jealous. I'm like, okay, I'll do the tomatoes and the peppers, but I'm gonna have to do that. Because I was really interested in that arrow garden, because I'm in a space too that I can't grow anything, so I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, it's nice. It's definitely compact. It seems like I just started with it, so my stuff is still really, really small. But it's nice that it has like it has notes on there for when it needs to be watered. So like you don't have to like look at it all the time. It'll just say it needs to be watered. Because I know that some people like, have issues with overwatering and stuff like that. But it's really nice. It's nice and compact, and it's pretty. Like, it looks nice. Like it doesn't look clunky. It looks nice.
Right. I've seen it before. I'm gonna have to definitely check that out. Love it. It. So let me ask you this. What is your favorite quote? Do you have a favorite quote? And if so, what is it?
I have 2 favorite quotes. One is by Toni Morrison, and it is, if you want to fly, you got to give up the shit that weighs you down. And I something like that, but that's pretty much what she said. But yeah, like I feel that like sometimes, we're very like just busy for no reason. Like we take on so many things for no reason, or we don't even ask for help. Just as particularly us as women, particularly women of color, like we just don't ask for help. Like I notice, if I just go and I'm just going to go do it. Right. But I don't even ask like, hey, can you take care of dinner tonight because I have something to do for the business, or, I just don't feel like it. Right. But I just do it. So that I realized, like, if I want to fly, if I want to get to this next level, same thing with fear. Like if I want to fly, I want to get here to where I want to get to build my business. Like I gotta let fear go, or I gotta ride it with me and just hold on to it and just keep flying. And my other favorite quote is, "You can't pour from an empty cup." And the first, I know that's something, I don't know exactly who the first person to say it was, but the first person I heard it from was a yoga teacher in Las Vegas, and I was taking his class. It was a Black yoga teacher, so it's something special about when you have like a Black yoga teacher and you're the only other Black person in the class. It's just nice. You're in sync, kind of. Right. So he said, you can't pour from an empty cup. And that has just stuck with me for so long, because I'm just like, that is so right. Like I give so much better. I give from a better place when I'm full of abundance, when I'm full, like when I've given into myself, then I can give you my best. Like I can give my sister, my nephew, my partner, my whoever, my audience, my people. Like I have to give into me first, and then I can give you the abundance, the best of what I got. And I won't feel empty because I've given to you. I'll feel like I'm taken care of, and I feel like you're taken care of. And, things are just, we're in sync, and I'm aligned with what I want to do. And this, so it's just, those are just things that just stick out to me. Like you got to let some shit go, and you just got to also pour into yourself.
Oh my goodness, you're so right. You are so right. Let it go, ladies. Let it go. Let it go, because it'll wear you down. Well, you know what, Miss Stacy, this has been so fun. I can't even believe our time has almost come and gone that quick. Yeah. This was a joy. Thank you for joining us. And this was a blast. I hope to have you back again. But before I close out, 2 things. So what is your win for this week?
My win for the week is I passed 100 downloads on my podcast. I'm so excited.
Happy for you. I know, right? Got
Thank you.
to celebrate those milestones. Got to celebrate those milestones. And then the last thing, what would you like to leave our listeners and followers with?
Oh, I would love to leave you with, I guess, one thing outside of what we talked about is just that, self-care is not selfish. Pouring into yourself allows you to give your best self. You give from a place of abundance, you give from a place of happiness, you give from a place of just joy, and fullness. And it feels good. And so you don't have to like just be getting through and just like being pulled in a thousand different directions. Like just take the time, take care of yourself, even if it's just like 10 minutes a day. Like my self-care routine is an hour and a half by design because I was tired of having to rush through the mornings from oversleeping because I was exhausted and I couldn't get out of bed. So now I purposely pour into myself and just like be intentional with your self-care. I guess that's another thing maybe I can add to it. Like, take that time to say, I'm taking this time for me. And it's not selfish. It's just because I need this time and I operate better when I have this time. So take it, be intentional with it, and just do it. It's awesome. It feels good. And I promise you, people will still need things after you've taken care of yourself. So it's okay.
So true. Oh, and I do have one more question. Look, I wrote it down and I had it circled. Do you have an ask? Do you want to ask me something before we go?
Yeah. Oh. How do you practice self-care? How do you prioritize it? Or how do you plan to prioritize it?
Yeah. Now that we talked, you're exactly right. Well, in the morning, I actually have a morning routine. I have to have it. Before I even hit the floor, I sit and I talk to God. And I'm like, okay, God, I think I say my gratitude statement to him. I tell him I'm thankful. And I'm like, okay, we're getting ready to do. And I thank him for everything that he's doing, and he's working on for me. And then I sit there and meditate. I just literally meditate my music. I do it for 30 minutes. I'm looking to maybe move it out to 45. It just depends upon the morning. And then I already visualize what my day is going to look like because I already work in corporate. So I know in the mornings I'm already going to work on corporate. And then after corporate, I take 30 minutes to 45 minutes and I start working on my business, my passion baby. And so that's what I do. But I do that. I'm going to have to try the nap thing out a little bit more. My girlfriend's over here, girl, I told you a nap.
See, a nap is so good. All you need is like 15, 20 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be long. You just need to check out for a second and check back in.
Yeah, she's like, girl, I told you a nap. I'm like, okay. I said I'll deal with you afterwards. But I wanted to thank you, the crew over here that was blowing up my phone. They said thank you. They said that they may reach out to you because they felt it was helpful. They were excited that you came on and you really inspired them. I'm gonna read you some comments and then we can go. Elisa says, wow, this is very impressive. I believe that I can be soothing, and therapeutic. True. Busy for no reason. Yes. Terry says Juice Plus had a cool tower garden to grow plants, veggies, herbs, and fruit. I know, right? I'm gonna try it all. Kimberly says, amen. Self-care isn't selfish. Right. And then she said, right, girl. Then she says, naps are amazing. LOL.
Yes.
You're right, you guys. So I'm going to tell you my win. So my win is actually I was just voted by Courageous Woman magazine as the top 25 businesswoman. So I will be.
Congratulations!
Thank you. So I'm excited. It's really nice to hear being in someone else's magazine. Though I have my own, but I was like, wow, okay, that really took my breath away. But I want to thank Courageous Woman for recognizing me as part of the top 25 women. I'm so blessed and honored to be in there. Well, you guys, you know what? This was amazing. I told you guys I have powerhouse women that are coming to the table, and that's all I have. I want you all to know, I want you all to live beyond your 9 to 5, even if you like it. We're doing it. And you see Stacy is rocking it. So I want you to guys to know that you are out here. You are so important and special. So do you and live your life. And if no one has not told you yet, we want to tell you, you guys rock. You're amazing. And so go out here and live your intentional life for you and no one else. Remember, we only get one. So take care of it. And you guys, don't forget, mask up so we can get through this.
Yes, please. I want to go travel somewhere.
Please mask up so we can get out and we can not to first see each other, but we can bump up elbows, arms with each other, but just get out. So please mask up. Until next week, this time, you guys be out here, be intentional. And you know what? It's Win Wednesday. Don't forget to go after your goals. Until next time, you guys. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.